Freesoul. He came and took a tour of the studio and I gave him my business card. And like 2 months later, he was like, "I'm looking for a guitar player for this hip hop group." And then that's how I started with that band.
Okay. So can you, speaking of Freesoul, can you talk a little bit about your time in that band and like what happened there?
That was a similar situation to the band before, just a little bit more mature. Don Mann ended up signing Freesoul. We actually rehearsed and went, and we were competing regionally in all these competitions, band competitions, and we were 5 for 5. We won everything we did. We ended up going on the Rock Boat and competing nationally and won that. And it was really kind of like, what's the next step? And so Don Mann signed us to a small deal at Memphis Records, where we went in as a band and tracked 1111, which is Freesoul's first album, and we put that out, got a booking agent, and did kind of the same thing, but more on a national level, van and trailer, toured, and we, about 2 years into that, I guess I was like 26 maybe, Universal, a division of Universal, Divine Stevens, it was an old Jackson dancer who signed T-Pain and Akon.
Mm-hmm.
This is right when T-Pain had just barely come out, and Akon was jamming, blowing up. Well, he said, "Come down to Atlanta. I got a hold of you guys' mixtape, and I wanted, we did a couple live shows for him." So we started negotiating a deal with him and Universal. So we went down to Atlanta. We found this loft downtown. All 5 of us were going to live in it. I think our drummer was even going to live under the stairs. It was like a 2-bedroom loft. We were all going to just get in there and make a record. We were so excited. Mm-hmm. We went back to Memphis, went and did a show in Dallas, and we were physically moving to Atlanta after the show in Dallas. Well, while we were negotiating that contract, Justin Timberlake wanted to start the Stax label over again in Memphis, and he was searching for Memphis talent. And so we did a series of showcases for him, probably 3 showcases, and never heard anything from him. But he kept inviting us back for these showcases.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, somebody in Memphis, I think it was Ray Fleming, who was running the Memphis Music Foundation, called Justin. He goes, "Man, you are snoozing on these guys. They are physically in a van right now going to Atlanta to sign with Universal. If you want these guys, get it." And Justin liked the fact that, we're black and white band. We did multiple styles. It was rapper, it had singing, it was R&B, rock, everything. And he was like, "This is like the next Stax house band. I could take these guys and they could really like do it again."
Yeah.
So he called, and we literally pulled over the van, and myself and the drummer like, "No more negotiation, no more. Screw Justin Timberlake. We're going to Universal. That's there. We got a place to live. We're there right now. Let's go. We can make the record next week." Mm-hmm. And it just ended up happening where we took a vote, and it was 3-2, and Justin offered us a little bit more money. He was like, "I got to have you guys come back." So we literally turned the van around and went back to Memphis and took another 6 months negotiating a contract with Justin. Then that album took 4 years to make, and it had a lot to do with his schedule. Justin was really doing a lot of movies, but we would go 6 months without seeing him, and then we'd go in the studio for like a week, 10 days, and crank out songs. And then he'd send us to work with all these different producers. I mean, we've traveled all over the place working with producers. We had 118 songs by the time we had a meeting with Justin finally after 4 years. And he was like, "All right, y'all ready to make this down?" So he sat down, he listened to roughly half the songs, and he gave them an A, B, or C. And at the end of that listening session, we had 14 A's. And he goes, "That's your record. We're going to finish those." So the next 2 weeks we sat in the studio with him. Timberland came through. We did 2 songs with him, and we knocked it out. And Justin got us a deal with Interscope Records, and then we started doing some marketing. We released 4 singles on Interscope before we got dropped last January.
So when you were dropped, did you think that was kind of like the end of it for you for music? You're going to do something else?
Yes.
You did?
Yes. Total depression. I mean, you go 4 years, and the album is actually really, really good. And it's so different, and it still can go on the radio. They pushed that one song, Fascinated, hard to radio for like 2 or 3 months, and it was doing well. we were about to go on this big Canadian tour, and then our manager called up the accountant, and Interscope was like, "We need to get that tour support." He said, "Well, you guys aren't on the roster anymore." And sure enough, it was over some political crap that had nothing to do with the actual band. Mm-hmm. I think Interscope actually dropped all of the 10-man imprint. So he dropped all the Justin stuff. And yeah, we all kind of were mad at each other and mad at the situation. And, you know, I was like, I mean, this is last year. I was 33 years old. And it's like, what am I going to do now? I don't know how to do anything else. And I actually, in April of last year, I went to Atlanta to interview for a job. One of my dad's sons had a amazing opportunity for me, but it was like in the credit card processing field. And I remember going, you know, I had this long hair, and I go to this interview, and there's all these cubicles out of the floor, and like this really like unattractive bald dude steps up, you know, stands up, and you know, my buddy's sitting there telling me, he's like, but like him, you know, he's doing well, he's making this money, and he's not on Facebook, and look at him, man, he's gangbusters.